So it's been a good few weeks since Alpha Omega dropped, and it's time to look towards DLC 4. In this video, I'm going to absolutely blow your mind, as I'm going to be diving really deep in this one, looking at all of the in-game secrets that are right in our faces, and talk about where we're going for DLC 4. Now, as you see from the title, it's very likely that this is going to be a remake of Call of the Dead. There's been so much talk and rumor in the community over the last few weeks about this map being a Call of the Dead remake, but this video isn't based purely from that speculation, but 99.9% from in-game hints and secrets. This is going to be a very interesting video, a very long one, so be sure to get comfy, stay tuned throughout, because your mind's going to be blown several times over. I'd love to know your thoughts on this in the comment section as we go through the video. Literally, if you have any ideas, any theories, or hopes and expectations for the final DLC map, let me know. And one final thing before we begin is that if you enjoyed this video in any capacity at all, I'd love for you to let me know that by dropping a like on the video. If you don't want to, then that's absolutely fine, but I guarantee you by the end of this video, you will come away feeling that your like was justified. And as of right now, my channel is in a pretty weird position. I'm pretty confident YouTube is not notifying you guys of my uploads whatsoever. So as annoying as it sounds, having a YouTube video ask you to like before you've even really got into it, I'd super appreciate it, in particular on this video. But I won't mention it anymore in this video. Let's get right into the meat and potatoes. How on earth are we going to Call of the Dead in DLC 4? Well, to get to that conclusion, we need to go and look at the ending of Alpha Omega. Before we even get into that, let's just look at the more obvious things straight away. Every Ether map so far in Black Ops 4 have been remakes. As much as I and you would love to have a map dedicated to the Great War and be brand spanking new, and you can just tell from Alpha Omega that Treyarch don't have a huge amount of development behind these DLC maps anymore. It's very likely that it will be another remake. Call of the Dead is the last non-Victus map that hasn't been remade yet. Anyway, back to story time. Monty realizes we're plotting against him and kills Dr. Maxis. He manages to send Samantha and Eddie from the house to our characters just before this happens. And Samantha exclaims that we're going to go fight in the Great War, and then we're going to go back to the house to kill Monty and burn it all to the ground, essentially destroying Argatha, which will destroy the Ether and Dr. Monty, which we learn from a Dr. Maxis radio. This is specifically the only way that we can destroy Dr. Monty. Now, Dr. Maxis was our sole guidance throughout this journey. He was the one that was helping us teleport to the various destinations we've needed to, and houses the other end of a teleporter which our characters could use to enter the house and Argatha. But since Dr. Maxis is no more, our characters need an alternative way of entering Argatha. This ties in exactly with why we came to Alpha Omega in the first place, which was to collect the Elemental Shard. Now, it is never specified why exactly we need the Elemental Shard, but the Elemental Shard is one of 3 items our characters need in order to enter Argatha. It's been right in front of our faces ever since day 1 of Black Ops 4's release. Scribbled amongst many walls in the bottom floor of Classified, you can find many secrets and hints that have been there from the start. One in particular shows exactly how our characters are going to use the Elemental Shard as well as 2 other items to enter the way through, which will be to Argatha, where they will be able to destroy Monty. We see the middle item being our Elemental Shard, the bottom being what looks like a staircase, which is labeled the way through, and above it is an item called the Golden Rod. Now, the Golden Rod is referenced by our characters in Classified, and if you are an OG Zombies player, you recognize that this is originally found in Call of the Dead, and is one of 2 items required by Richtofen to complete his grand scheme on the moon. Classified wall scribble tells you in clear black and white that our characters are going to use the Elemental Shard as well as the Golden Rod in order to enter Argatha and destroy it, thus explaining why our characters retrieved the Elemental Shard in Alpha Omega. Now, if you are curious on what the way through means, this is also referenced in a Purnell radio in Alpha Omega, which is a personal diary log where he is going crazy from the voices in his head, both Dr. Monty and the Shadow Man, who want him to find a way through, a gateway, fast lane to reach the Ether. But at the time, he found a schematic in Dr. Richtofen's journal of a backup plan to build a device, but he didn't have the necessary components because they didn't exist. And those components were obviously the Golden Rod and the focusing stone from Shangri-La. So right there is a very clear first hint that Call of the Dead is our location because we need the Golden Rod. The next clue is that wherever we're going is apparently somewhere very cold. And if you aren't aware, Call of the Dead is set in Siberia, full of huge icicles and ice cold water. And in Classified, we can find a secret cipher from a future version of Dempsey, which is a humongous hint towards what's going to happen for the narrative by the ending of our DLC 4 map. It reads, cough, field report, heavy cough. I don't know why I'm doing this. Is anyone even receiving me? If you are, then all hope is lost. I'm the last one. The others, they're gone. We failed. I don't know if there are multiple outcomes or if this has always been the only one. No matter what we do, what we fix, we still end up here. This time travel sugar. Multiverses, sugar fries your brain. I hope Richtofen established contact with the others, woke them up. It's the only way now. It's up to them. Damn, it's cold. Very cold. Not much time left now. Now, straight away, there is some things to pick out from that, particularly towards the end, saying I hope Richtofen established contact with the others, woke them up, it's the only way now. This can be one of two things. The first could be that this could be a reference all the way back to the intro cutscene of the Giant, where our three Primus characters, minus Primus Richtofen, travel to the Giant to awaken the test subjects, as you can see right here.
Great evil approaches. There is a chain of events that must be set in motion.
The future hangs by a thread. You must awaken the test subjects.
Now, if that's what this cutscene was referencing a whole 4 years ago, I think we will all have our minds blown. The other idea when you hear test subjects is the Victus crew. We first learn in a cipher in Gorod Krovi that the Victus crew have been placed in stasis on ice, having samples of their blood extracted from them, and we physically see what we think is that description in Blood of the Dead. Now, there's no explanation as to how they left Blood of the Dead, but they 100% have from a phone call that Stuhlinger has inside of Classified. Now, this is the thing that's going to blow your mind here, because what's the one thing that Blood of the Dead and Call of the Dead have in common? They both have a lighthouse. Now, at first, you might not think this is a big deal whatsoever, but in Blood of the Dead, the lighthouse is the sole reason why Stuhlinger can communicate with Richtofen in his head. The lighthouse triggered a chain reaction in the ether, which allowed Stuhlinger to hear all sorts of three-key chatter in his head. Now, I'm not saying that the Call of the Dead lighthouse will also possess this same ability. The lighthouse is pretty important inside of Call of the Dead for that Easter egg quest, and the Stuhlinger radio message is directed purely to Richtofen, which is only possible by that lighthouse. And take a listen to where exactly Stuhlinger is in this phone call.
Hello? Is this thing on? Richtofen! Hey, Richtofen! You've been gone from my head a really long time! I gotta be honest, I'm freaking out a bit, man. It's so quiet. I can actually hear myself think. Do you know what that's like? It's not nice at all. So, listen, buddy, old pal, we gotta talk. You sent us here, of all places, but you forgot to tell us what to do. It's dark, it's damp, it's just really filthy. I think the roaches are crawling with roaches. How is that even possible? Wait. Shoot. Am I even talking to the right Richtofen? Oh, you could be the other one, right? Or the other one. Yeah, you know what? Just go talk to your Richtofen pals at the hoity-toity Ricky Gang Clubhouse.
He's somewhere dark and damp and filthy. Now, if we were relating this to Call of the Dead, the only place that would match a dark and damp description would be that vault door that the original Ultimus crew are stuck behind during the main Easter egg. Might be a little bit of a stretch, but the coincidences with the lighthouse definitely isn't. Let's talk about the one Dr. Max's phone call that you can hear inside of Classified. It describes the 3 members of the Ultimus crew being blinded fools by Ultimus Richtofen, sheep being herded by a false shepherd. The most intriguing part is the fact that he directly references things that happen in Call of the Dead.
The amount of element 115 he pumped through them, I'm surprised any of them survived Siberia.
Now, Treyarch didn't have to mention this little bit of information. Sure, that's where the original 3 Ultimus crew were experimented on in the original storyline, but I definitely think this is Treyarch being very cheeky here, throwing this reference in as potential foresight into the future DLC. And this isn't the only time Siberia has been mentioned in Black Ops 4, because Nikolai quotes it in Alpha Omega right here.
Nevada, very hot, like evil Siberia.
And let's not forget as well, he also references a lighthouse.
I am here to remind us all, Takeo. Like Lighthouse before tempestuous sea, I will steer us away from rocks.
Now again, could be just coincidental, but I definitely think Treyarch are throwing us a bit of a bone here. The biggest piece of evidence thrown by Treyarch in our faces is that on Zombie Chronicles Ascension, the telephone's Easter egg has been changed to no longer hear the presidents on the phone, but to hear the Ultimus crew stuck in Call of the Dead.
Hi, Takeo. Yeah, how you doing? See all your puke? That we're picking up? You're not saying thank you? Nothing? You know why? Because you're a little shit.
Now, if this isn't the most obvious hint yet by Treyarch, and it isn't Call of the Dead, then I will eat my shoelace. Because what Treyarch tried to do with Zombie Chronicles was have it as an alternative timeline to the one that we played in the original games, thus enabling to rewrite the cycle and to subtly hint that these remakes were on the way and that story changes are happening. There was even a new discovered Easter egg where you can get the song from Call of the Dead to play in Ascension. And this Easter egg was in there since day one, and we didn't discover this for over 2 years, which is crazy. And let's take it back a notch and make this even more obvious, okay? Pretty much most of Alpha Omega was already built and in the game on day one because it's the Nuketown Island from Blackout. Despite a few reworkings here or there, basically the entirety of the bunker section is identical to Blackout, as is most of the outside section. Now, the Lighthouse from Call of the Dead is one of the main aspects of the map, and that has been in the game since day one as well. And it's the entire playable space of the original Lighthouse. Now, if that's not obvious enough, then I don't know what is. But not only that, but Treyarch have just added some new Blackout characters, with one of them being Danny Trejo, who was one of the original 4 celebrities in Call of the Dead. Now, when you compare this to some other additions that they've had recently, such as Rustman, Misty, this is a really random zombies character to just throw it into the game for no reason. They've had to do brand new full body scans as well as record voice lines for Blackout. There is no way that it can be a bad idea to suggest that he's also been in the studio to do stuff for zombies and perhaps could make a slight cameo in a new version of Call of the Dead. Obviously, one of the main points of Call of the Dead was George Romero. Sadly, he's not with us anymore, so I doubt he would have any huge role to play within the remake besides being referenced. But yeah, as soon as I saw that Danny Trejo was added into Black Ops 4, that already sent some suspicious alarm bells ringing about Call of the Dead. Another strange thing is right now, if you drop into Blackout Alcatraz, you have Not Ready to Die, the Easter egg song in Call of the Dead, playing to get you amped up. There's no real reason this is in the game apart from the fact that M Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold is also in the game. But of course, the first song they ever wrote for Black Ops was Not Ready to Die, which was featured in Call of the Dead. And the band are even selling Not Ready to Die merchandise right now, which is really strange because that obviously had huge reference to Call of the Dead. Like, at this point, there's just so many parts of Call of the Dead featured within different aspects of the game that it makes absolute sense for them to just go ahead and actually bring the map into the game. But I've still got a little bit more for all of the narrative and lore that can be tied up here. Now, we learn inside of Alpha Omega that the Elemental Shard has powers to not only restore people from the dead, but restore their soul and mind. And that's something that's very different to normal Element 115, which simply reanimates the dead, while this brings the dead back to their full human restoration. And funnily enough, in Call of the Dead, it features a wonder weapon which ties in very, very similar to the Elemental Shard, being the VR-11, which if you shoot at a zombie, it transforms them into a human, which is literally the exact same powers as the Elemental Shard, but as a weapon. If Treyarch wanted to go down the route of exploring the origins of the VR-11, then right here is the perfect way to explain it. The last thing I'm going to mention as in-game evidence is on Revelations. There is a series of radios from a woman called Sally, who I believe was George Romero's assistant during the filming of the film Call of the Dead. And she's been there 6 weeks after the disappearance of the cast and crew in Call of the Dead, giving us our very first look at what a future potential Call of the Dead remake could entail. And she also references our 4 Ultimus characters as well, which is very, very interesting. There we go. Our main premise is we're going to be taking the Elemental Shard from Alpha Omega, as well as the Golden Rod from the Call of the Dead remake, to enter our fast lane into the Ether. So our DLC format will be a best of both worlds. We get a remake of Call of the Dead, as well as a section for brand new map to be made by us entering the Ether and destroying Dr. Monty once and for all. because we do know one ending will involve us going to the ether and the house as depicted in this Call of Duty Zombies comic screen right here. And we do also see it in the Chronorium during the Alpha Omega intro before it gets mysteriously wiped from the book. But whatever happens, 100% the plot line that we have set up is we will need the Golden Rod, and the most obvious location it will be is in Call of the Dead, where we first found it in the zombie storyline. It's also a very, very fitting way to end our story, as it's a location in which our Ultimus Dempsey, Takeo, and Nikolai first met for the first time, being experimented on with Element 115 by Ultimus Richthofen. And it's also referenced by one of the first ever zombie radios in Shinonuma, which gives off coordinates of the Tunguska River. A meteorite of Element 115 was found, which is just near Siberia. A lovely way to end the story by referencing one of the very first locations in Zombies story history. It'd be super interesting as well to learn any brand new info about Pablo Marinus, as he was the Mexican test subject who died in Siberia, and in an alternative universe died in Der Eisendrache, but he was there in the 1300s saved by our Primus crew during the Great War. Tons of cool story stuff which can be explained in this, but I'm going to throw it over to you guys. I want to know any and all of your opinions and thoughts on this in the comments section. Are you happy by the idea that a Call of the Dead remake will be our final ether map, or would you rather it just be a brand new map to really finalize everything, since this really will be the ending of the ether story as we know it? Let me know either way, but if you enjoyed the video, your mind was blown at any point, I would love for you guys to drop a like rating if you haven't already. If you're new around here and you haven't yet already subscribed, make sure you do so to keep yourself notified of any and all news about Black Ops 4 Zombies and Modern Warfare news. And if you are subbed, be sure to click that bell and make sure you've got all notifications turned on. That way you'll never miss an upload of one of my videos. But thank you so much for watching. If you've made it all the way through to the end, you guys are absolute legends. I can't thank you all enough for the support recently, and I really hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys hopefully in the next one.